Hello ratbags, it's Jade Plays Games. Welcome to Subnautica, my top tips for starting out in this game. The game is not that challenging really, it's all just about knowing what resources do what, where you can get hold of stuff and what equipment is the best to make early on. There is no right or wrong way to play it. If you like taking your time, you go ahead, but this is designed for people that really want to get a good head start so they can go and explore and get upgraded to some of the better equipment or some of the submersibles that you will be able to craft later on in the game. So come with me as I show you everything you need to know. Top tips for Subnautica on the PS4 and Xbox One. Once you've done dousing the flames with the fire extinguisher on the floor, you'll notice you have a Medivac box on your left hand side. That continuously refreshes your medikits, so always take one out of the box and store it in another storage container. This way you'll always have health supplies raring to go. Just make sure you always take one out of the box and then come back when it's replenished it a few moments later. In fact, it takes roughly 30 in-game minutes for that to happen, so it shouldn't be too long for you to get yourself a good supply of health kits. Your life pod will actually float around in the water until you actually fully repair it. You'll need a repair tool for that to work. Don't worry too though, I'm going to show you guys how to get that, but that's not your first priority after medical kit. Your life pod has storage. In it you'll find some supplies. You'll also have the damaged radio, which gets you missions to go and follow later on, and you all need to repair the radio for that to happen. But first off, look in your storage container and you'll see you've got 2 pieces of food, 2 water and 2 flares. So this is why you don't have to panic about food and water straight away. I'm going to be showing you guys the best ways to get food, but for now just make sure you've got at least maybe 1 piece of food or water on you, or go ahead and eat it straight away so that you're close to 100% for both food and water. Once you dive into the water, you should still be in the relatively safety of the starting shoals, so you won't have to worry too much about too many predators. All the fish that you can see, if you can get close up to them, you can actually pick them up and collect them. You don't need any specialist fishing equipment. There are tools that will help that later on, but initially if you really need to get hold of a fish to eat, you can go ahead and just try and catch one by zooming it onto it. Follow the in-game tutorial tips that will show you need to collect some of this. You've got to break the limestone outcrop, and inside you'll find either copper or titanium. You'll come across different outcrops later on that have different resources in, but in this starting area it's mostly limestone, and that's going to give you that titanium, which is metal which can be crafted into a whole host of other stuff that you need, and copper, which you need to power a lot of items. If you do come across any scrap metal, that can be converted into titanium as well, but scrap metal takes a lot of your inventory space, so be careful you don't overload too much on it. But keep going around, gather as much of that stuff as you can. Ideally though, you're going to want to be able to find at least 1 piece of copper ore and 1 titanium to make the scanner. You're also going to need some of the mushrooms that are lying around as well, but they're really common, so don't worry too much. Just focus on trying to find the copper and the titanium first. Now you're back at your escape pod, use the fabricator to convert the copper into a battery mixed with the 2 mushrooms. Once you've done that, scroll down to equipment and then go to personal and make your scanner, which needs 1 battery, 1 titanium. This is the single most important feature of the game. You're going to use this to scan all the wildlife, all the plants, all the wreckage, so that you can build better vehicles and basically just upgrade yourself as much as possible. You'll also notice I'm making another standard air tank. I've already got one equipped on my actual self, but if you make another one and pop it into your inventory, it will give you that extra air time to go and exploring under the water. It costs 3 ingots and it's well worth making. There is a more advanced air tank that you can make, and this will give you even more air to make, but you're going to need at least glass and 1 piece of silver. Now silver is going to be in one of the different outcrops, and it's going to be a little bit harder to find. You'll find it sometimes deeper inside caves or more towards the deeper ends of the ocean. But it's not totally impossible to find within the first sort of 20 minutes of just exploring the seabeds around you. You will find it in sandstone outcrops, and it's got a very smooth texture to it, so definitely get hold of one of them if you do see it. It's well worth picking up that resource as soon as possible as well. If you have gone a little bit deeper than intended, look out for this brain coral, which actually releases oxygen, and make sure you give it that scan. Like I said, scan absolutely everything. It'll give you crucial information on how that plant, how that wildlife is going to be useful for you later on. Once you've got your scanner and you've got a little bit more oxygen in your tank, go ahead and swim out a little bit from the crash pod and you will come across creepvine. Now creepvine's got two uses. You can take the fruit, which is the yellow bulb, and you can also hack at it when you unlock a knife. I'm going to be showing you how to get the knife right now so that you can go ahead and utilise it to defend yourself and attack other creatures. But first things first, we need the rubber, so go ahead and grab the creep vine clusters that you can see. Be warned, they are normally protected by them stalkers. Now these stalkers can be quite aggressive, but they're not totally unavoidable. Grab what you need and then swim away as quickly as possible once you've got at least 2 or 3 creep vine. Now these do take up quite a bit of space, so be careful again that you've got lots in your inventory. Once you're back at the crash pod, you should be able to convert the silicone rubber into normal rubber, and this rubber is going to help you make your knife. Do that and then use it with a titanium piece and you'll be able to make your survival knife. Now you've got the real 2 first tools you need to go and explore even further, your scanner and your survival knife. At this point as well, with your extra tank that you've managed to craft and make, you should be well on your way to going out and finding better resources. At this point you should have been gathering other resources as you've gone, and maybe you've got yourself some fish and you've managed to cook it. Top tip, don't cook a bunch of fish early, only cook what you need, particularly early game. If you're going somewhere where you might think you need a lot more food, then you could go ahead and cure your fish once you find some salt, but otherwise only cook it as you're about to eat it. Otherwise fish goes off really super quickly and it'll actually do damage to you over the long term if you start eating it, if you don't eat it straight away. Different fish are going to give you better options for filling either your food or actually giving you some H2O intake too. Generally always get to a point where you're near 0 or you've got the warnings coming on, and then just feed yourself all the way up to 100, and the same goes with water. It's not the end of the world if you die though. You will lose some items, but you can swim back to that spot and pick up your items again. So don't worry too much if you have died from hunger or thirst. That is another cheaty option if you don't want to worry too much about eating and drinking early on in the game. Just be warned, there is no marker to indicate where your stuff is, so always make sure you know exactly where you died before you die. By now you might have found you're running out of space, you've been using the storage in the life pod but you just simply haven't got enough. Make sure you make some deployable containers. They won't disappear, they won't go anywhere, no one's going to attack them, no creatures can destroy them as long as they're not too much in a dangerous area, and if you're still at the starting spot, they're a really good idea just to pop some extra resources in. If you need to, go back and get some more creep vine cluster so that you can make more rubber. Now we're going to make some extra fins. These are going to give you 15% extra speed in the water, and they're imperative if you really want to get away from some of the creatures that may be attacking you. Now it's completely optional depending on how many batteries you may have been able to craft, but a torch can really help you out. However, when you unlock the Sea Glide, which helps you get through the water very quicker, it comes with its own flashlight, and I find it's better to use that. It also means you're not taking up extra space in your inventory, and it's not that much of a use for a battery. At this point, take a little breather, go and gather lots of resources. You've got plenty of ingots, maybe plenty of batteries, and you've gone and just scanned around the areas all around you. Now if you haven't by some chance picked up any cave sulfur, you can get them here. These little crayfish, they'll come at you and they can often attack you. Now they do quite a bit of damage, it's well worth trying to avoid them, but it's not the end of the world if they get you. Just make sure you visit where they come from to pick up the cave sulfur. You're going to need that to make your repair tool. It costs 1 silicone rubber, 1 cave sulfur and 1 titanium. With this you can repair your life pod and you can start thinking about following some of the missions or stories. Once you've created it, go ahead and equip it, put it into your inventory at the bottom, and then repair your terminal here. It will repair the radio and you'll start receiving coordinates and missions on where to go, and you'll find other resources and other blueprints. Now you didn't just need that knife to ward yourself off some of the enemy creatures, because there aren't that many in that starting area. What you need the knife to get is some of the coral tubes. This is imperative to get fresh water. You will probably have run out now by the water that you had at the start, and maybe you haven't been able to find any of the bladderfish. FYI, bladderfish will give you a boost to your water of around 20 H2O, so if you do see some around and you are a little bit low, make sure you grab some of the bladderfish rather than any of the others. But once you've got your knife, hack away at the coral tube, bring it back and combine it with the salt to make bleach. When you're ready, go ahead to sustenance water and then make yourself disinfected water using that bleach. Each bottle of bleach will give you 2 bottles of water and they'll replenish your water by 30 each time. At some point while you've been doing all this, the Aurora hasn't been faring too well. In fact, it's got a countdown on it to when it's basically going to self-destruct because of the damage it's sustained. It will give off a huge amount of radiation, so you will need to craft a radiation suit to now go and explore the waters nearby. Don't worry, the radiation suit isn't that expensive, but it does present an extra little challenge. It might not have to be your first step or first stage to go and explore, but it certainly could be a good idea to get yourself a radiation suit anyway, so you've got it ready to hand. Also, once you've got your life pod enabled, you'll have to keep repairing your radio. I did say earlier on that it should be ready and working, but you do have to repair it yourself, and once it's available it will start giving you distress signals. Go ahead and follow them for your next stages of survival in Subnautica. And that is it for your beginner's guides, your starter tips, the first few stages of Subnautica. Other than making sure that when you're scanning debris lying around, make sure you go to every single box. Inside will be the vital blueprints you need to craft and make advanced items like this gav trap fragment you're seeing, or you might even be lucky enough to get a sea glide fragment. These are really crucial for getting around the underwater world very quickly, so absolutely make sure you've always got your scanner in hand. Don't forget, scanners rely on batteries. Lots of electronic equipment like the scanner, like the repairer, will need to change batteries at some point, so make sure you've always got 1 or 2 lying around and you can change them at any point while you're running about. In my next tips video, I'm going to be showing you some of the locations where you can get lots of resources or find lots of sort of blueprints to scan, and some of the more advanced techniques so that you can survive and thrive in Subnautica. If this video has helped you out, hit me up with a like, make sure you comment down below if you've got any other starter tips, and I'll be back for more Subnautica action. I am Jade Plays Games, like the video, I'll see you ratbags in the sea.